if we'd have sued my doctor, what really would have happened is that my doctor's attorneys would have spent all their time pointing to Johnson & Johnson and Depuy and Pinnacle and saying, it's not the doctor's fault, it is the fault of the appliance. Well, that would make things awfully easy for my attorney. But the reason the attorney doesn't want to do, at least in my case, the real reason, and we haven't talked about this, is because medical malpractice cases are very difficult. And product liability cases are very easy comparatively. And so if they think, well, there's an 80% chance I'm going to get the money through the product liability aspect, why should I include the doctor in there? You know why? Real simple. Because the doctor would have still said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $25,000 if you let me out. And that $25,000, about a third of that goes to you. That's your $8,000, assuming that 8 goes to the lien holders with their medical bills, and another 8, maybe 12 goes to your attorney. But that means that there was about $8,000 that would have been in your pocket. So it's up to you. Do you want to make a stink about that? If you do, their $500 per hour is going to start dropping real rapidly for any attorney who says, yeah, why didn't you sue the doctor? It says right here that the part of the pain that the client was suffering was caused by something that the doctor thought was his fault. Well, if that's true, then you are entitled to money for that. Here's some of the things that I've seen arbitrators really like, and it really impresses them. Communication. Yes. Can the arbitrator show letters from his law? I'm sorry. Can your attorney show letters from his office to you, or from him to you, which is even better, expressing the latest developments in both the big case and how does that relate to your case? So, a good attorney would say, here's what's going on with Johnson & Johnson and the big 10,000 cases, and here's what's actually going on in your case. And that you should have gotten a series of letters, I think a minimum of 10, describing to you over the past, let's say, 5 years, hey, here's what's going on with the case. If you didn't, the arbitrators are going to start cutting that fee down and saying, no, Mr. Attorney, you don't deserve top dollar because you didn't give top dollar service. You just did not. Same with phone calls. Did the attorney make phone calls back to you saying, oh, let me tell you what's going on, why there's no offers on your case, but I do expect one in so-and-so. I think there was one last week because we saw the wind blow and we're really hoping to get something out of it. And, of course, what we'd want to hear is, well, what was the explanation? Why did it fall apart? All of us were expecting a settlement in June and July and had our hand out and we didn't get anything. Why is that? Now, if the only communication you got from your attorney were the 3 that I've gotten, 3 letters. 1, here's the welcome letter and here's a questionnaire to fill out about you. 2, Johnson & Johnson has decided that they're only going to settle. This was from 4 years ago. They're only going to settle with those people who have had revision surgery. If you haven't had it, screw it. You're not getting anything. And then maybe a real recent one saying, oh, well, it looks like maybe they're going to be settling pretty soon. If those are the only 3 you got, your attorney should be down there at $200 an hour, $250 an hour, $175 an hour. That's shit work. That's ignoring the client. And you don't deserve that. So that's one that pulls that multiplier back down. Again, I get my dander up when I hear about these attorneys that send out 2 or 3 letters. Now, one of the things that we were going to go over, I don't want to get off topic, but this comes up again. We were going to look at our letters and see that when we got the notice 4 years ago or 3 years ago from the attorney that Johnson & Johnson was only going to settle according to them, with the ones who have had the revision surgery, did your attorney in writing say, don't worry about it, we're still in it for the long haul, we're not going to kick you out? Or did they not address the issue, which leaves them a back door that if they look at your case and decide, we don't want to spend 1,000 hours on a case where we're only going to get paid $100,000, just forget it. Get out of here, we'll just skip that case. Tell them we're going to sub out. So that's one of those things that you want to look, has your attorney, and I think you can also look for this in the retainer agreement, have they committed from the get-go that they are going to be in this case no matter what happens, or did they leave themselves the room out where it says, if we look at it and we decide that this case is no good, we can walk away. If they have that, you're going to point that out to the arbitrator for certain, and I think there's nothing that pisses off another attorney more than that. They see that, they see a huckster, and they say, okay, well, we're going to give you a nice, generous $100 an hour, and you've worked 10 hours on the case, Mr. Attorney, so we're going to give you a very generous $1,000 for the work you've done on your case. Thank you, and goodbye. So those are the things that I know of that cause the multiplier to rise and fall. Not how fancy the office is, not how big their overhead is, not did they have any awards in school, not did they get any sporting awards of like javelin thrower. I had that in a case once. And those kind of things like that. So those are the things that will cause the fee to go up and down, and the wheels in the bus go round and round. And that's been today's episode of Depuy Pinnacle Hip Implant Litigation podcast. Please remember down there to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. If you don't, I hate to tell you what's going to happen, but it's very, very bad. We can't even talk about it. And do remember not only to subscribe, but give us a thumbs up. We appreciate that. If you want to go to our Patreon page, and where you can spend all sorts of money and buy mugs and glasses and things with our name on it. We don't have a Patreon page, and we don't have mugs and glasses because we don't want your money. What we're here for is only to give you some help trying to get through this awful, awful, awful situation. And anything else is just gravy. If you really would like to thank me, if you feel that I've given you some advice, especially if I did help you get an advance from the lenders and you've gotten some money out of it, American Cancer Society is good. Give them $1 or $2. That'd be fantastic. Or American Heart Association, who I think I mentioned this. I found out that, I've known it, that my uncle was a very big wheel there. He was a big to-do at the American Heart Association because he was a very famous heart specialist. And, boy, if I'm going to look, see if anybody's looking. Want to hear one of the creepiest stories you've ever heard? I'm going to say, okay, close the door. Just close. I don't want anybody hearing this. Okay, close the door. My uncle was just one of the top heart specialists in the country. A very nice man. And he went out bike riding with my brother-in-law, who's also a doctor, a neurologist. And my uncle started not feeling well. And he really did not feel well. And even though these guys were, the bike Nazis, and they get out there and they drive, they ride 25 miles every Saturday, so they're in the best shape, and they've got the, 0.011 fat. They could, ride well. It didn't seem to be making too much difference because Uncle Larry was looking very pale and getting worse. And so they quickly got him over to one of the hospitals in Orange County. I'm trying to remember which one. I guess it doesn't matter. But they took him into the room, and they knew who he was, so they gave him preferred treatment and hooked him up to everything. And not the doctors told him, he told them, because he's such an expert, he said, I know what I've got. I've got this and that. And they said, well, it looks like it. We're going to run some more tests. And he said, you don't have to run more tests. I can tell by the pain and by where it's moving. He said, I can tell what it is. And he goes, I know that means I've got about a half hour left. And they said, well, no. We're gonna hook up some instruments and make. And he said, you don't have to BS me. I know this. And I don't know what it was, what the name was. It'd help if I knew the story better. And he said, no, I know what's happening. He goes, I know I'm dying. And he goes, I know I've got about a half hour left, and I'm going to call my kids and kiss them goodbye, and that's it. And he had time to do that. And sure enough, even though he was with my brother-in-law who's a doctor, and he got into the emergency room quickly, he knew it, and he was absolutely right, and he died about 25, 30 minutes later, just like he knew it was coming. Wow, that is a creepy story. And he used to tell us this fun joke, which is not funny, but people would come to him all the time, and I hope you appreciate black humor. They would come to him and say, right now Pilates is in. What do you think is the best thing I should do for my heart? I've got kind of trouble in my family with hearts. I'd like to get my heart in real good shape. So should I do Pilates? What do you think about kickboxing? People say kickboxing, and there's some sort of bell fighting or something. Or do you think I should just do swimming? They say swimming's real good for your heart. Well, Dr. Larry, what's the best thing I can do for my heart? And he would say, the best thing you can do for your heart is have parents with good hearts. In other words, it's already determined. You can go a little bit this way and a little bit that way, but how long your heart's going to last you, it was determined before you were born. And that's scary. Okay, all right, I've wasted enough time. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to see you next week.